Finance Investment Committee to order, and we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. Those are for the May 17th, May 18th, and May 20th meetings.
Move to approve. Second.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. Tonight, we will be dealing with the General Purpose School Fund for the 2010-2011 year. And, of course, we had a joint meeting with the school board, the Health and Ed, and Budget Committees last week. And we will deal with the motion sent to us from the Health and Ed. And I think, gentlemen, instead of us having to go to our notebooks, you will notice on our agenda the revenue pages, if you need to refer to it, is section 11. The expenditure pages is section 12. But I think Director Gill will be working from the summary sheet that you have in your packet. And if you will look at the top, it will say Rutherford County Schools 2010-2011 General Purpose Budget. And it's dated May 25.
Do you want us to insert those in here?
It's this one. It should look like this.
Yeah, but you want us to insert it in here?
You might afterwards if you wish. Yeah.
What you have there replaces most of what you have in your book.
And you do have some new pages for it.
Take that out.
Yeah, you can take the old ones out and use that.
What package you talking about?
About 3 or 4 sheets, and it's got.
It should be right behind your minutes.
Budget summarized by object code.
Yeah. Does it say the 24th?
24th, yes, sir.
Okay.
24th, yeah.
Monday.
So,
Ain't nothing behind these.
And this summary sheet that looks like this also.
Ain't nothing on
we'll work
behind
for
these.
this too.
Okay. Did everybody?
This is already in his notebook.
I didn't get one.
Behind tab 12, if
If
your
I
notebook
had
was
their
here.
notebook, it's already in their
Oh,
notebook.
Ms. Short said she may have put you, if she worked with your notebook, she has already organized it for
Put
you.
it in there.
Okay, that means you need to turn to section 11 for revenue and section 12 for expenditures. Okay, Director Gill.
Again, as Chairwoman Ely said, I'm going to work just quickly from the sheet that says Rutherford County Schools 2010-2011 GPS budget summarized by object code as of 5/24/2010. And I don't really want to go into much detail on that. I just simply want to say that I think if you've had any opportunity to look at that, you'll basically see that we are offering the same services as we did last year. There's not an expansion of positions there, with the exception of added teachers to accommodate 1, growth, and 2, the opening of 3 separate schools. The 2 middle schools, Oakland and Buchanan, Whitworth Buchanan, and thirdly, Central Magnet School. Everything else is virtually the same. And if you do see an increase, for example, in guidance personnel or somewhere else, it's to accommodate that growth or to accommodate the opening of those schools and to keep our SACS accreditation. And I think there are some areas in there where we've actually cut some positions, aren't there, Mr. Sanders?
Yes, sir.
So I say all that to just say the school board has done its dead level best to make sure that we kept our budget within the finance restraints we have. Secondly, we don't want to impose a tax increase on the citizens of the county in these tough economic times. And if there are questions on that, that would be fine. At the same time, maybe in advance of questions, I'd like to work off this sheet because this is the real indicator of what we've done. And it reflects at the top Rutherford County Schools 2010-2011 General Purpose School Budget. We're requesting $256,801,110 versus the 2009-2010 budget, which was $243,442,833. Now this excludes the transfer to Fund 142 federal projects. This is an increase of $13,358,277 or 5.1%. 104.8 positions are being added, or 3%. And again, a lot of that will go towards the opening of the 2 middle schools, Central Magnet School, and also to accommodate probably 800 new students in the school system. Now, as we drop down, changes since the 419 version, we've added $73,000 to our budget, $168,533 revenue, and offsetting expense. That was a state change in the E-rate, so there was no additional cost there. There was a $43,267 net increase between career ladder and extended contract revenue and expense, and also $29,751. The state loan for sensors has dropped to a 5-year maturity. It was 7 years. If you recall, the state is part of their incentive and initiative to have schools implement energy savings across the system. Gave us a $500,000 loan. Now, in addition to that, they were going to give us 7 years, and the payoff was at 3%, Mr. Sandvig, something like that,
Yes, sir.
per year. So they have since then changed that to 5 years. That's the bad news. The good news is it's ultimately going to save us somewhere around $80,000, I believe, in interest paid. Now, so there's $73,018 added to that that April 19th version. Now, this budget will handle growth in the 2 to 2.5% range, open our 2 middle schools, Oakland and Whitworth Buchanan, and Central Magnet School. Other than the expenditures for these schools, it is very much a budget for tough economic times. Further testimony that we are trying our best to make sure there's not any kind of tax increase. We have actually, we went into this determined not to cut people's jobs. What we have been able to do through retirements or people moving or non-renewals is to eliminate 14.5 positions. We've kind of moved towards, in the elementary schools, K through 2, we assigned EAs at we used to assign them at 1 EA per 3 teachers. Now we're getting to 1 EA per 4 teachers. We don't like doing that because EAs are extremely valuable to the school, but at the same time, we know we have to do something to accommodate growth and also to open these schools. Also, we've saved positions. In the middle school band, a lot of schools we had 2 band directors. We've cut those back to 1.5 per school, which allowed us to save 2 middle school band positions. We also have reassigned school technology folks, specialists, to cover more schools, and we saved 2 positions there. We also pulled Spectrum services at the magnet schools and reassigned them to cover the 2 new middle schools and a few other areas. So we saved 2 positions there. Assistant principals, we only added 2 positions despite the fact that we're opening 3 schools. And we reassigned using SACS guidelines so that we would maintain our accreditation. And we only added 2.5 guidance counselors despite the fact that we're opening 3 new schools. So all that, I'd like to say, is an indicator of how hard we've worked to make sure that we come within the financial restraints we have. All right, next, increased costs for existing staff and loan payments. Here's why we had to increase our budget by $13,358,000. There's an additional contribution on our part of $3.4 million for retirement increase for certified employees. State has raised our required contribution from 6.42% to a little over 9%. $1.1 million additional money going towards medical insurance due to higher participation. $1.65 million for step raises for existing staff. This includes FICA and Medicare. And then $308,000 for loan payments for the lighting sensor project. Now, I would say this, despite that we're $308,000 additional lighting sensor contribution, the anticipated saving is $218,000 for this year. So it's a net, what, $90,000. That all totals to $6,458,000. Now, also, there's $4 million that will be anticipated needed to open the 2 middle schools in Central Magnet. That includes buses, salaries, etc., and an additional $2.9 million for classroom teachers and other growth costs. So all that adds up to $13,358,000. And as you can see there, there's no real changes in our services being reflected. Other work, we new schools, adding sensors. The rest is medical, retirement, and stuff really that doesn't impact instruction or the improvement of the quality of the schools. So again, we don't have any leverage there with respect to how we're doing anything. And further, I hate to keep using this word, but further testimony to our effort was the fact that we have, through fund balance, been able to hold out a considerable amount of money towards opening those 2 new middle schools. Okay, at the bottom, funding, we're getting roughly $7.25 million additional dollars from the state for BEP money, and also another towards our budget increase, $500,000 to meet the local maintenance of effort, a shift 1 cent for property tax from the debt service. $2.7 million will be coming out of our fund balance. That's what we currently have, over 3%, and an additional $3,650,000 from the 2009-2010 budgeted expenditure reversions to fund balance. So that makes up the balance of the money we're not getting from the state, and all that allows us to get to $256,801,110. Open our schools, offer services that we currently have, open 3 new middle schools, and not require any kind of tax increase. And I make a motion that y'all, a recommendation that y'all approve that.
Commissioner
A
Sandlin.
couple questions. I apologize for not being at the meeting. The other night, my daughter broke her foot, so we were getting x-rays and all that sort of stuff, and what a way to start a summer out. But anyway, walked in when y'all were just getting out, so I apologize. But the 1.6 here for step raise for existing staff, how many employees does that include? Is that school board, school office, or?
No, that's certified. We
Okay.
have what?
And classified.
And classified.
Okay. And then the fund balance of 6.8. You're drawing down some.
Taking $2.7 million from fund balance.
Plus 3.6.
And the 3.6 is.
Explain that little
Coming
deal
back
right
in.
there a little bit, either Lisa or yourself, just real quickly, what you're doing there.
Go ahead. I mean, I can't believe it.
Just we have intentionally, as Mr. Gill stated, we have tried to, realizing that we would need the money to open these schools next year, we have made a very concerted effort to save money within this year's budget. These positions we didn't fill, we have lessened what we are providing for those services, made that decision. That would be one of the sources we would use to help build up fund balance.
For example, in that particular case, I think we had, the year before this, we came up, we had to amend money for utilities.
Mhm.
If you recall, to the tune of about $2 million.
Yeah.
I think this year we were able to use some in the opposite direction, weren't we?
We should be able to,
I think
yes, sir.
some of that,
Absolutely.
maybe we didn't use every single teacher, or any of that coming out of certified positions.
Probably some of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In other words, everywhere where we had some
Yeah.
excess money, we pulled it together to put towards.
Well, you came in $4 million over at the end of the budget too, than what you projected
That was
by July 1, because we were thinking you were at a much, $4 million less. So that helped you open up these new
Yeah,
schools here.
absolutely, yeah.
So the 6.8 doesn't put us in jeopardy then. That puts us in line with what they're supposed to have, and then in fund balance, and then our dreaded maintenance of effort there. We're on target there. We're meeting it.
when we move the money over.
When we
we'll
move the
make
money
it.
over. Okay. Well, I look at the packet of stuff that y'all gave, and with opening up 3 schools, it looks like y'all did a fantastic job in trying to do the best you can. So.
I move we accept this budget as presented by the Health and Education Committee.
Second the motion.
Okay, and a second from Commissioner Sandlin. Discussion, Commissioner Schaefer.
Got about 3 questions. One of them is this retirement increase from the state's going to be with us forever now, I assume, right? Okay. It's not a one-year
Unless
thing.
investments go up.
It could go up or down.
It can go up or
Yeah.
down.
Investments go up, it could go down.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay, the other is, do you know roughly of everyone that works for the Board of Education, what's the percentage that's in the county medical plan? 75%? It's going up all the
It
time,
is
all
going
over,
up
because
all
we
the
still
time.
will include spouses, et cetera. And I mean, it's just roughly, I'm just kidding.
Let me,
Well,
that number always scares me to cite anything. Well, I mean, as you say, each year it has slowly been increasing. The best I could tell in our hourly staff, about 75% participate. And in the classified staff, I'm sorry, certified and salary classified, since they're paid once a month, I grouped them together. It looked to me like we were getting closer to 85%.
That's
85.
no, thank you. Very high. And I have one more.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my grand total.
I imagine all the other county departments are doing the same thing. It ain't just school system.
Yeah.
Well, if
But it's-
if they still have it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say it as well. It's about 80. There are functions where it's over 90. There are a few where it's under 70. So
Okay.
it's somewhere in the 80s.
Okay. And one last question. Contracts with vehicle owners. That's the bus contract, and it's going up about 700,000, and that's 300,000 is for the new routes for the new schools. Is
Well,
it-
yeah, I mean, I think we're adding, how many buses, 12 or 13?
We may have cut it to 10.
Okay. You know, we'll run in a shuttle from Laverne for the magnet school. The kids that are in many of whom are in the center of Murfreesboro, we're carrying 4 or 5 miles out of the middle
Okay.
schools. We're adding buses there. We'll add some bus routes because of growth. You know, again, I think Mr. Snell originally asked for 13, and we, like you said, we whittled it down to 10.
When is their contract up?
Oh, I think we're in the starting the third year.
I think we're
it's
starting
2
the
years
third
before
year.
we rework the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, and the 300,000 number I cited there for the bus routes, that is when we actually got into the zoning, we had to do, there was more moving than we had thought there would be.
Okay.
Now, the magnet school, if you say you got a child that's entered in it and from Laverne, and then it's not their responsibility
No.
to bring them here,
One of the,
the parents' responsibility is what I'm saying.
well, it is, unless you live in Smyrna Laverne, because there are a large number of kids that live down there who don't have the same opportunity with respect to being transported in close proximity to school. So the board decided, in lieu of opening something down there, a magnet school down there, they would offer a shuttle service if those kids
So they
qualified. So
They meet at one school then or something, and they pick them up there.
Well, there'll probably be 2 or 3 different stops. Matter of fact, we've had a preliminary discussion, and we'll have subsequent discussions. But they'll probably hit Smyrna Middle,
Okay.
maybe Laverne High, Smyrna High, one other place, and then they'll shuttle up and shuttle back.
What about for the rest of the county? Is there bus service for somebody from,
Wouldn't be enough, for example,
Yeah.
from Eagleville or somewhere else.
no, it gets to be, when you
Yeah.
open that door though, you
Yeah,
gotta be
that's what I was
careful.
thinking.
We thought about
Because
that.
our kids
but
in
Yeah.
Christiana or
sometimes
Milton
you have to
or.
open that door, to get it done, but, yeah.
Well, I know this is probably a couple of weeks old now, but I got the breakdown from the 6th through the 10th grades there, and I was pleasantly surprised at how it was so varied throughout the whole county, that they were coming from everywhere. And I was happy to see that because, well,
Yeah.
you know, where I live, I was
Yeah.
worried. And I'm happy to see that so many of them are going to try.
It was pretty exciting. The 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade will open at capacity, and then the 10th grade will open at about half capacity, which we anticipated. And like you say, there's it's spread throughout the county, you know, kind of reflects every community. So it's really worked out well so far.
Even after all the, what do I want to say, hullabaloo that went on about Discovery School and whether they there's quite a few coming from there to the middle
There are.
school. And also private schools and home schools,
Yeah,
if it all have them, so I
Got
think.
coming from Providence, Webb,
Mhm.
and other places, so.
Cedar Hall. And,
Yeah.
okay.
I wanted to ask one question about, it's related, but then again not related, but the out-of-county students that was set up for last year about showing whatever kind of different identification or something. Have y'all, has there been a drastic change in that in out-of-county students coming to
The mayor
Rutherford County?
probably has as much, it has as much input with respect to the success of that, but the only thing I've gotten feedback on was that it's been successful, that we have been checking it, that it's, I mean, we haven't identified a influx of kids that didn't have, weren't in county. I'm sure they'd be clever enough not to come up there and show you if they were out of county anyway.
Sure.
But I think it has contributed towards identifying more folks that hadn't paid for the wheel tax, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's been a very successful partnership effort that's been made with the school board and Mr. Bart Smith.
Right.
Okay, gentlemen, we do have a motion to accept the recommendation from the Health and Ed Committee, and that number is $256,801,110. Any further discussion relative to that motion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Okay, Director Gill, we will now move to the Central Cafeteria Fund revenues and expenditures. Gentlemen, that is section 13 in your notebooks, but we do have a summary sheet that was given to you just a little while ago that I think we can work from that. Director Gill?
Okay. Yeah, in the middle of that page, Centralized Cafeteria Fund 143, 2010, 2011 budget. Here's the sheet.
So what in the packet?
Reflected is the 09-010 budget versus the 2010-2011 budget. As of now, it's $14.5 million last year versus $14.2 this year. And the staff, we anticipate obviously some growth with opening of schools and added students. The staff expenditures will be a little bit higher, going from 4.9 to basically 5 to 5.3. Benefits in turn will go up. Other operating expenses they're comparable, but $100,000 more. Also, we're purchasing a considerable amount of equipment this year that we didn't have to purchase last year. What's that involved in, Ms. Sammy? Do you know? Or?
It is just various equipment needs we have, but the main, before our centralization, we had every individual cafeteria's operating money was added up at the end of the year, and if you were over 3 months, you had excess balance, and we had to have a plan to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we are centralized, we are able to spend it at some of the schools that couldn't afford it.
Yeah. But in this particular case, like for example, the high schools are adding an additional serving line. We're going from a 6 to 7 period day. They got to get them to lunch quicker, get them out. There've been grease traps, exhaust. And again, like Mr. Savage said, there's some of the schools don't generate as much revenue as others, and that was one of the perks of putting it at having a centralized account, where maybe the haves can help the have-nots as it relates to cafeteria staff. So, anyway, total expenses next year $15,396,032 versus $14,139,300. Reflects the net income. The revenue numbers are conservative, may be increased after analyzing May operations. Operating expenses are up because of getting the 2 middle schools and Central Magnet School. The equipment expenditures have been increased as part of the plan to use some of the excess balance that must be used to improve the program. We have to have, 3 months
Yes.
operation?
No more than.
So, pardon?
No more than.
No more than 3 months. So, this, again, that worked out as part of the centralized plan where we could help schools in need. And we're recommending that you approve the 2010-2011 budget for Centralized Cafeteria Fund 143 as presented.
Madam Chair, motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan.
One just comment, I guess. The only thing that I have heard on the changing into this, I guess, is the notification for the kids whenever they run out of money. I mean, ourselves, we pay twice, you know, for our kids for lunch or whatever, but I'm understanding from some parents that they're 3 or 4 days or maybe in a week or a week and a half out. The kids are out of money. But the parents hadn't been notified until they're done, like I said, 3 or 4 days or a week past that they're out of money in that account, and then they have to put money into the account. So it's like, well, I don't know how that works. We ain't never been notified ourselves, but then we just, you know, we just pay twice a year for both of us.
Of course, the dilemma is once they run out, it takes a little while to not say, hey, you're out of money. By the time
But I'm asking, is that, do you do a notification type thing?
I can check with Mr. Blair on that.
Okay. I mean, otherwise, how does the parents know that you're out of money? I guess they tell them, and then parents come and
Kids are really, really hungry at
They hear their stomachs growl.
Internet access, you can go to your account and look at it online and see how much you've got.
Really?
That's what we do with our kids. It costs a little surcharge to put it in that way, but you can do it right there on the computer.
I don't know if parents knew that. I didn't know about that.
So.
Must not be having
I've
too
seen her
much
do it. I don't know how to do it.
I just thought I'd bring that up because that
I can
was.
say you must not be having too much trouble if school system ain't heard about it.
And I know that one of my kids
They
ran
just
out
heard
of money,
about it.
and they still made sure they found
That's from you, it ain't from
They didn't let anybody. They don't
we
let
do
anybody
not
go
let
hungry.
anybody go on.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they get them some food and just let them catch it up whenever.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion on the Central Cafeteria Fund motion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Gentlemen, we are now ready for the Education Capital Projects Fund. If you refer to your notebooks, that is section 14. But if you'll just turn to the back of that summary sheet, there's a summary page for the Capital Projects Fund 177. Director Gill.
Capital Project Fund 177 is funded by the 5 cents of the property tax. And 2010-11 budget uses all anticipated revenue, $2,287,420 in order to fund the list of the projects. You know, as you know, we're perpetually doing roofing projects. Also, we've committed to doing various renovations across the county, which we've done here. Wastewater treatment at Kittrell and Lance Cass's, winter replacement at campus school is part of that commitment we had a few years ago. All that totals $2,240,420, and we're recommending that you approve the 2010-2011 budget for Major Capital Projects Fund 177, the list of projects as presented.
And if I may, the difference between the two numbers is trustees commission.
Yeah.
Central magnet grease traps, $175,000.
And we can't, that
Cannot come out here.
that is a building level expenditure that we cannot pay out of the cafeteria funds. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, like a major restaurant is like $40,000, and so you.
They probably don't serve it anymore.
And with the age of the building.
Well, I don't know. You're baking. You're not frying anymore. So it's like it's 4 times
A requirement we
motion to approve, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin, seconded by Commissioner P. Discussion?
That does bring up a question. I know that, we're all trying to go green, and you mentioned the grease traps there. What are we doing with this grease that we're trapping? Are we trying to recycle that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So, you're right. Who's picking that up? Did you bid that out?
Yes, we
There's so
did.
much in Nashville, don't
Last,
they? I'm not sure.
Just want to make sure we were, so.
yeah.
Mayor Burgess.
When we had this campus school discussion with MTSU, we had phase 1 and phase 2. And I know you finished phase 1. Will this sort of take care of phase 2? We had some sort of agreement with them on what needed else to be done. And I honestly don't remember what else needed to be
I don't
done.
either, but
And you may not either, but I just wanted to bring that up as something we might should review.
I don't think that fully takes care of it.
No, it
but-
does not.
No, we still
The
got
first step
stuff.
of phase 2,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But
big
that's a good
piece
point.
of
Maybe
it.
next Health Ed will come and give you a report
You
on
might, it's
the
something
status of that.
so we don't get too far down the road with them and then say, hey, you guys didn't do what you said you
Right,
needed to.
right.
Well, I assumed this was part of the total, but this was like a second phase.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I just didn't know if this is all of it, or maybe we need a little bit more somewhere
It's a
down the
big piece
road.
of phase 2, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Yeah, I want to say phase 2 was in the $1 million range, wasn't it? But I can't remember.
About the
I
first
don't remember
half.
either, but
Okay. It looks like you're almost halfway there.
It looks like, yeah.
Any further discussion?
So they've met their demands, though? I mean, that's what you're going to look into?
Well, we still have some time left.
yeah, we have some time, but
You know, we're kind of chewing away at the corners here to get to the center.
We think we're on target.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Director Gill, Mr. Sandvik, do you have anything else?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, do any of you have anything specific that you want to bring up as far as reviewing any budget item that we have discussed so far in all of our work sessions?
Just let Ms. Nolan go over it
Okay.
all for us.
To
I'm
jog your
kidding.
memory, well, she has given us a packet to review sort of where we are at this point, and that will help us be ready for our meeting on Thursday, which is required that we have something ready for publication. And I might just suggest,
We're just going to look over this
if,
and talk about this Thursday.
if you feel like we could do that tonight, that's perfectly fine, but if you feel like you need more time on Thursday, that's whatever the will of the committee would be. Mrs.
I
Nolan.
just wanted to give you this package, if you didn't want to get through it tonight, just so that you had and knew what was in front of you. If you flip to page 1, when we met on April 29th, the certified tax rate that we were using was $2.4481. Since then, the rate certified by the state is $2.4652. They carried out to 4 places. So that change generated about another $900,000 spread amongst the funds. So you see the ratio of the 2009, and this is what the same ratio would be for the $2.4652. 46 and a half. Can I just say $2.46 and a
Is
half?
that number set, or is it
This
still
is
subject
set.
to change?
That's
I
it
think
now.
this is now
It is
set.
state approved.
State approved. Okay. We've talked about taking money out of the debt service and moving it to the general fund and moving it to the schools for maintenance of effort. This third column is what I would propose to you to accomplish that. All the other funds are the same ratio except for the county general, which is going to 55.4 pennies. And you'll see education goes up slightly, and the debt service is going down from 27% to about 25.4% of as far as the split. So that's just the basis of what I'm now going to talk about for the rest of the night.
The rest of the night.
Well, the rest of the night might only be 15 minutes. How about for the rest of this meeting? Sorry. Okay. The next page, page 2, is distributing the 2010 estimated property tax based on that split, that proposed split that I gave you. Sorry. Okay. So go to page 3, and you're going to see some terms, because I know you all studied those changes of fund balance terminology. So I've got some of this in here. Okay. So right now, revenues with that split of the penny, in the second page, I want, if you'll just go to, stay here. Revenue at 65,291,908. Expenditures 68,065,251. Revenues under expenditures by 2.7 million. But that's 2.7 is going to be a change to the restricted fund balance, which is litigation tax and the Register of Deeds of $317,200. The $1,018,000 that would be using development tax, and then the balance, $1.4 million, as being a change to the unassigned fund balance.
That's how we get to that 2.7 number.
Right. So on top we'll show you this is how much our revenues are under our appropriations, and this is where it's going to, which pieces of the fund balance it's going to hit. Okay. On page 4 is a listing, but just giving you all the changes that we've made from when we presented to you on April 29th till today. I'm adjusting the revenue. The adjustment for the certified tax rate, that gave $190,000 more to the general fund. That's going from the $2.44 to $2.46. These are some little minor changes. I did adjust the payment in lieu of tax estimate, $230,000. You'll see we talked about that 2008-2009 Homeland Security of $759,446, and you'll see it on the bottom also in the appropriations that we added to the revenue and the appropriations. And then transferring pennies, but reallocating pennies from the debt service of $2,198,000. That gets us to the $65,291. Below those shaded in gray are the things that really are going to be funded out of development tax. You know, when we talked about development tax, and now I moved it into this fund.
And that could be an unassigned if you wanted to put it there.
Except, not really. Can't be unassigned because the resolution, the private act says that it has to be used for debt service and capital projects. So it can only be used for those purposes.
But you can't leave it. You stated all that the other night. I'm just still not. This was an audit finding. This is a change. This might make it. Do you remember we have individuals who come in and say, the county's got $80 million in fund balance? Right.
Well, we all know when you add all the fund balances together, you might get that, but you've got fund balances in specific funds that is assigned to that. I mean, it's to that. You can't spend school fund balance for general purposes.
Right.
That's the whole purpose behind this accounting standard, is to try to make it clear, so that when somebody picks up an audit and say, what does the county government have that they could spend?
So this is a state
what's unassigned.
It's as far as clarification.
It's accounting standards.
It's accounting standards, so it's all over the United States change. Right, gotcha. But that's the kind of the background. That's why, a lot of times, well, if you look at our financial statements, you'll see reserves of fund balance. And we don't talk about, because Elaine goes through and makes sure all those are accounted for properly to go into the next year. Our main focus on this committee is how much money do we have that we could allocate? Well, those reserves and restricted, those can't be used but for specific purposes. That's why we don't really talk about those here. We only talk about undesignated money that's available. Terminology's changed, so we only talk about unassigned.
Clarifying it across the board.
Yes, and that was my understanding. The purpose is just so that the public who reads this, if they see a fund balance that's assigned to something, that will clue them in that you can't spend the school money in solid waste.
Right.
Okay, so that's the general fund. So it gets us with moving the allocation of the pennies to give us $2.2 million more into the general fund. We are above our policy by $200,000, $300,000. $200,000
or $300,000.
Yes. Okay.
She had a problem adding those other zeros.
I do have. That's every year. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a problem. Okay. Page 5 is just focusing on the development tax and the half that's that will be allocated to the general fund, 550, because we've estimated 1.1 million for next year for development tax in total. And I just listed those things that are in the general fund that money will be, used to pay those particular items, and then the transfer to other funds will be transfers out into the capital projects fund to account for those, the public safety communication and the fire rescue. So there we're just talking about the committed part. Solid waste has no property tax in it, and there's really no change that I've made in what you've seen. Page 7, we've made, again, the adjusting for the certified rate gave them about $32,000 more in revenue, and we did increase the other contracted services when we met in front of you. So this is the fund that is revenues more than expenses.
And that was where the state made an increase.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a choice.
Right, and we had cut it out, but needed to add it back. Fund 119, I didn't make a change. Fund 121, that's that fund that we picked up. This is the one, Steve, that was the audit finding. Asset forfeitures. And this is one that we can't budget any revenue. We can't estimate revenue. We can only budget it when we have it in our hands. And that's just the rules surrounding this program. 122, there's no changes and no property tax in the drug control fund. Highway fund, all I did here was try to break out the assigned fund balance separate from the money that they get from property tax, because you've committed that penny is for public works, not for other highway stuff. Okay. Now we get to the general purpose school fund, what we talked about tonight. And when we presented to you earlier, we had almost $250 million in revenue. Adjusting the certified tax rate, adjusting their pilot, and transferring the additional pennies from debt service, we get them the extra $500,000 that they needed for us to maintain our effort. So you just approved the $256,801 using 6.3 of fund balance. Jeff is estimating their fund balance at $14.5 million. That would bring that down to almost $8.2 million, which is slightly above the requirement. They're 3%. And 143, same information that you got tonight, with an estimate of their fund balance at the end of the year, $3.6 million. The debt service fund, adjusting the certified tax rate gave us almost $249,000 more in revenue, but then moving the money out of almost $2.4 million out of this fund has us appropriations more than revenue by $667,000, estimating the ending fund balance at $31.8 million. Lastly, the capital projects fund that you just talked about, and adjusting the penny for this fund gave them almost $13,400 additional in revenue that they could apply to another project. And then page 16 is the statement of estimated operations. It's just a summary of all those individual sheets. Revenues under appropriations in total by $13.5 million. 1.3 million coming from a change to the committed and restricted fund balance, and 12.2 million change in the, I say assigned and unassigned because it depends on which fund you're talking about.
Well, let's just do Thursday, exactly what we just did.
Well,
Gentlemen, I was going to suggest, what is your level of comfort as far as being ready to send this to publication? Because on Thursday, our meeting was for that purpose, is to send the proposed annual budget for publication to the local newspaper.
I move to send it on and cancel the Thursday meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Bullen has made that motion, seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Discussion among the members?
I've only had two basic, just upside down thoughts on two issues in the budget, and one of them was overtime pay in the sheriff's budget, and the other one was this $600,000 in the coming out of rescue, in the rescue thing. Those are two main issues I had that I didn't like. Usually you have something in the budget that you have a little heartburn on. You don't like it all. You can't, vote on it all. You've got some minor things. I think I'll just throw it out there at that. I've had those two reservations
Of course,
in the
this is
budget.
for publication. We will have our public hearing and meet after the public hearing if we want to make any additional
Right.
changes. So
right.
Exactly.
we met Thursday and critiqued it to death, and then we had a public hearing and somebody brought something out that somebody
Yeah.
hadn't thought of. We've still got another opportunity to adjust
Yes.
things after the public hearing.
I couldn't think of a better way, but to go ahead and give you what I thought that the tax rate needed to be split to accomplish the things that we wanted to as we went through it.
Of course, we're getting away from saying we've got 1 cent in the public work. We've actually got
You round it.
0.9 cent.
When a penny brings $578,000, I've looked at other large counties, and they go down to 4 places. It's more of an allocation percentage-wise.
We passed a thing to say we're going to put 5 cents to educational capital project. It's not actually 5 cents anymore.
But it's
4.4.
But it's not $2.73 either.
Yeah, I know. The total number is being adjusted down, so you have to, everything has to adjust likewise.
Which is why I go back to that first page of the allocation is the same,
Yeah.
Percentage-wise.
percentage-wise.
Well, and one of the things that happens each time there's a reappraisal, in effect, the 5 cents has already changed.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
especially when you get into multi-year
That was just a starting
discussions with
point,
board.
more or less,
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
But it's still worth the same amount or more.
More, I mean,
You know.
because of assessment growth, you get more.
But not from reappraisal.
But not from
It should be the
reappraisal.
same from reappraisal.
Right, but
Yeah. Only from growth.
for growth.
Growth, yeah.
For growth.
You have heard the motion and the second to send this to publication and cancel our meeting on Thursday. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Any further discussion relative to that motion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Right.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Right, so that meeting, June the 3rd, has been canceled. So we will have our regular meeting, of course, the following week. Public hearing on the proposed budget, as it will be published, will be June 15 at 7 p.m. Okay. Anything else that needs to come before the committee?
Where do we publish the budget?
Is it going to be in the Post this year? That's what we did last year. It was
I
in
got
the
a quote from them today.
We had a good discussion on that.
It was
last
in the Post last year.
They haven't changed the price. It'll be the same thing as
So you feel like it'll be the Post?
I haven't come to D&J.
Okay. She's getting prices, but last year it was in the Murfreesboro Post.
So what we're doing is going with the least expensive
Yes,
one? Okay.
exactly.
We can do that?
Yes.
legally? Okay.
Yes. Any further discussion or anything else that needs to come before our committee?
You
Okay.
adjourn?
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, all of this.